listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin. To master a higher frequency for new state of mind. Once you walked in a forest of splendor in which everything you did and everything you thought was aligned. It is possible at this time to begin to return to the old knowledge. Intuitive healer and manifestor Julia Griffin is here to talk about this unique time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you were born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour, and let us help you experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. For those of you who don't know me or aren't familiar with my work, I awakened with wolves when I met a wolf that talked to me the same way that you're hearing my voice now, and they taught me how to read energy and their stories about the universe, and I became an intuitive as a result. We have a very special guest today, Don Oscar Miro Quesada, a transpersonal psychologist and respected curando, I think I mispronounced curando, and an adept from Peru. He's the originator of the Mesa tradition, cross-cultural shamanism, founder of the Heart of the Healer, Shamanic Mystery School, fellow in ethnopsychology with the Organization of American States, and invited observer to the United Nations Forum on Indigenous Issues. Today, we are talking about a marvelous book with topics that are very close to my heart. His book is Shamanism, Personal Quest of Communion with Nature and Creation. And if you've listened to my show earlier, I've often said awakening is not just in the head and in the spirit. It's also in the body and with the earth. And he has a great deal of, I think, profound things to say about it. So welcome, Oscar. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Tiyayukuy, runakunap, suyakunin. Tukupi, ukupi, champoy, champoy. It's an honor to be with you, Julia. Thank you for opening up the sacred space for us to navigate these non-ordinary realms of connection with Great Spirit and with the bounty and the beautification that our earth plane, our beloved Pachamama Gaia, offers us as passers-by at this particular junction in our planetary evolution. It's an honor to be with you and explore the dimensions of shamanism together and how they're relevant to helping humankind find a path of spiritualization that is healthier than it is now. So, looking forward to it.
Thank you. For our listeners who are not familiar with shamanism, how would you introduce that to them?
Well, shamanism, in my experience, is ultimately the willingness to open up to non-ordinary dimensions of consciousness, of awareness, of sensitivity, and of our birthright as relatives to all the great sacred web of life. In other words, it requires a communion and entering into relationship with things that are not only three-dimensional objects, but that have a soul, that have an essence, that have a consciousness. And that consciousness is ever present and omnipresent. It is within us, it is without us. So think of yourself as plunging into a calm lake, a crystalline, pure lake, in which you could see all the way to the bottom. And it's a perfect temperature so that there's no shock when your body meets that water. And you are just taken slowly into the depths of that water and you realize you're able to breathe and you're able to swim like a dolphin. And you find a new home, a new abode, a new habitat in which all of the gravitas, all of the heaviness, all of the hindrances that you experience in the outside upper world that is part of our three-dimensional bodily constraint just is cast away. That is the experience of shamanism when you open up to these parallel realities behind the veil, to the dance between unseen and seen manifestations of what our cosmic mother's dreaming is all about. And if fortunate enough, you make that inner home, that bottom, that collective unconscious that is replete of archetypal and imaginal relationships, allies, power animals, plant spirits, great masters and mistresses and wisdom keepers of times past, and even of those in the future that may eventually be the star relatives that are so commonly spoken about nowadays that are visiting our planet. It all becomes a multidimensional playground. And that is what the shamanic consciousness requires. Keeping it green, never being an expert, always being a student, and being willing to learn as you experience and encounter heretofore uncharted realities and terrains of human experience. So let's take a plunge into the rabbit hole and see what awaits our discovery.
I will say this, that if you can open yourself up to it, it is such a beautiful, magical world.
It certainly is.
And who knows why I'm saying this, but I talk to deer every morning who come down when I meditate. And I hadn't seen them in several days because it had been raining and cold. And I thought, I wonder where my deer went. And I counted. I had 40 that ran across the street. It's like they heard me.
Yes, that is, well, obviously you have been graced by or received a bestowal of grace from the more elevated, refined Empyrean realms that have opened your vista, which is a shamanic sight, an inner vision, which, as you well know, Julia, is a refined sense of intuition, which allows you to feel the presence of these animal allies, of these spirit helpers, even before they show up in their physical form. And doing so, you can guarantee that they will show themselves at the time that they can serve as your guides, as your teachers. Yet the most important thing is the love, the deep munai, the compassive feeling and connection, heart connection you have with these allies, with these relatives.
That's what I say. It's the language of our heart.
That's it. In the end, we have the notion of munai, M-U-N-A-Y, which means deep compassive feeling, unlimited caring. And we understand that all shamanic service and healing is a labor of love, that there cannot be any expectation of what I'm going to get in return, but just an offering, a selfless offering of oneself to be fully present in the lives of another that are suffering and that need your company.
And I think that is such a wonderful thing because the earth absolutely heals. If you can find your way back to the earth and you can open your heart to what the earth has to offer. It's great healing, and as you often said, it's balance.
So mote it be.
You said that. It was balance, but it is. So I'm going to talk a little more about some things that people might want. And you said that we need to balance with Mother Earth and Father Sky to get back to that balance.
Mm-hmm. Well, as all passers-by, because we are temporarily earth, and the shamanic notion of the purpose of humankind on planet, or any living being for that matter, is to realize that it's a journey of discovery, a journey of awakening, a journey of refining our soul. And by soul, we understand that it's consciousness. It exists before the material world. Consciousness is a priori. It structures the material universe. And therefore, we structured ourselves through our own consciousness that is formless. And so when we come into a earth plane that is three-dimensional and is based on our sensory apperception of those dimensions, and it's crystallized into what we call ourselves, Julia or Oscar, and body. It's a long journey before you realize you're more than just that. You're more than just your physical body. Once that awakening happens, then you enter into a relationship with the sky world, with spirit. The earth and the sky, matter and spirit, become harmonized when you awaken in consciousness to the fact that you're much more than your body. I have a saying that goes like, I am immortal in being, beyond form, fearlessly free to be all worlds, times, and places that summon me. And that is the axiom. That is the living wisdom of shamanism. That just by using our discipline-focused imagination, our dreaming, our ability to expand beyond just what we feel is a factual basis for reality, we're able to encounter innumerable, vast realities beyond this earth plane. And that's what we call when earth and sky enter into a balanced, harmonious relationship of equilibrium between the unseen and the seen. At that point, you become a hollow bone, an instrument of healing grace on planet.
Because the universe comes through the hollow part of the bone.
Exactly. And we could break it down at the risk of being reductionistic and say, in terms of the quantum reality or the macrocosmic or the laws of physics, it's all the same, right?
Right. It's all exactly the same.
It's all the same. We don't need to go ahead and reduce it into some explanatory model. The most important thing is to live fully and to have the life that is so fully lived be an extension of your love, appreciation, gratitude, and reverence for the fact that you're even here, that we're even alive.
And that the unseen world perceives us.
And we perceive the unseen world. It's a two-way street in my humble experience.
Yeah, because that is just a gift whenever it comes through. The interesting thing to me that you say very clearly, which very few people can say clearly, in my opinion, is that our consciousness is creating the reality around us. Then, as I read your book, it's like the parts that I felt came to me.
And so, once consciousness begets matter, then you realize that language begets reality. The words we use, how we speak, crystallizes the reality around it, right?
Yes.
Words are very powerful, especially in shamanic practice. Our prayers, our decrees, our invocations, our evocations, our songs, our dances, our ritual expressions, our acts that crystallize the reality, the conditions around it.
I can feel that. When you say that, your rituals and your songs, I'm feeling that in my heart. It makes me think that somewhere I read in your book that shamanism continued to exist on the Peruvian level, even though so much of the rest of it was wiped out.
Thank Great Spirit for that, and thank many courageous individuals that regardless of persecution and attempted discreditation, continued to do these practices. In the times of dark night, most of the ceremonies are held, or used to be held at least, only in the new moon, when there was absolutely no light in the sky, and in very remote areas, because of fear that they would be persecuted and jailed, but they were considered superstitious and dangerous to the established status quo. Yet now, look at it, it's blossomed and flowered and just taken over. I don't know anyone in the modern Western adult industrial nations that do not have some form of shamanic practice among them. It all began, of course, with the introduction of the Eastern philosophies and practices in the 1950s through meditation and yoga and other types of arts. And that has gone ahead and they've easily morphed into the need for a much more earth-based spiritual practice. And that's what shamanism is. Shamanism isn't about, salvation and waiting for the afterlife in a heavenly realm, as in most of the monotheistic religions. On the contrary, it's the earth that is the sacred home that we are to go ahead and seek our welcoming in. So
because it's not about reward. I feel like that's a very limiting aspect of the religions that I was exposed to as a child. You don't do good so you get a reward. You do good because your heart speaks to you and it's a flow of energy.
Yes. So then, if I may continue, the third axiom is that ritual begets relationship. So if you stop and think, every relationship you have, every dynamic, every interpersonal connection you have has some form of ritual behind it, with people or without people, because by entering into a ritual practice, that repetition, that constancy of intention strengthens your relationship with something, right? And therefore, if you look at the natural world, everything is ritualized. Every species of animal, even our geological unfolding of magma from the center of our planet, takes a form of a ritualized movement, a fractal expression, and that eventually turns into the surface land masses, that from a higher perspective you can see a beautiful mandalic pattern, a crystalline, like lace-like web. And then from a deeper perspective, you realize that it's all interconnected and all whole, based on the fact that there's a ritual process taking place that is evolutionary in nature, and that the entire cosmos shares it. So any ritual mimics the ways of our cosmic mother's dreaming, and it establishes deeper relationships with whatever you intend to have a relationship with. So that's why it's very important to understand that when you do ritual in a manner that is non-attached, unconcerned with the outcome, not attached to the outcome of your ritual, that you will always receive an abundance, a treasury, a gift that is never ending from the Earth Mother, from the community that you serve. As long as you do not be in the place of greed and recognition and needing to be noticed, and allow the stinking, drunken monkey mind of our ego get in the way, we're going to have an extraordinary family, a tribe of living, pulsing, sentient beings that populate our reality. And you'll never be alone. So therefore, no fear, right?
Right.
I trust you're following, getting my drift.
Well, you also said that So much of suffering on the planet is caused from people being out of alignment with who they are in the earth.
Yes. That's there's a few
Not it
ways.
exactly.
Pain, the famous cliche, pain may be unavoidable, but suffering is optional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can choose to suffer because there's a secondary gain in being a victim, right? And so therefore we can say, oh man, my life is so screwed up right now that I don't need to do anything else but just be a couch potato and watch television and drink myself to oblivion, because I'm suffering so much. So people a lot of times in the modern acculturated Western world victimize themselves unnecessarily and really hinder or close down their ability to realize that a simple shift in mental perspective and in attitude, they're able to go ahead and move beyond suffering. That's not to say that they may still have pains and aches in the body, but not become obsessed over these conditions that are part of their own growth, their own learning. Sometimes our physical challenges are there to tell us stop, feel, go deep into whatever experience is there, because there's something for you to learn about. And that is not easy always, but it is necessary if you want to grow a soul. It is important to face your fears, your demons, your dragons, your insecurities, your doubts, your sense of lack of meaning fully before you can ever grow completely and overcome the fear of death. And that's the key to shamanic work, is to realize that every day is an opportunity to die a little bit more, to let go of one's attachments to how it should be and welcome the flow of life as it is and transcend that experience of discomfort. So yes, suffering is basically a forgetfulness. It's forgetting your whole.
Forgetting your wholeness too. Yeah.
Your wholeness, exactly.
Yeah, that's very well said. So we're getting ready to go to break, but why don't you tell us before we go to break, and we'll come back and talk about it more, the three worlds.
The three worlds are in the shamanic conception, involve a superior celestial Empyrean defined world known as the Hanakpacha in Peruvian shamanism, or the upper world. This middle Kaipacha, the world of sensory apperception that we're in right now, and then the lower world, which is lower a misnomer, I said in quotes, because it's really the interior, the world within, the world of soul. So those three worlds, when brought into alignment, bring forth an exquisite level of balance between spirit and material vibrational frequencies in your life that can then be manifested in a harmonious and balanced expression of what your purpose is, your dharma, in the middle world. And we can go into that a little later after the break if you.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. I can't wait to learn more about it. So we're going to go to break. I'm Julia Griffin at onetrueself.com, onetrueself.com, and I'm honored to talk with Oscar Miro Quesada about shamanism. We've been talking about the three worlds, which we're going to come back and talk more about that, and how important our connection is with the natural world. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening. And I'm your host, Julia Griffin. You can find me at One True Self. I'm talking with Oscar Miro Quesada about his most insightful book, Shamanism, Personal Quest of Communion with Nature and Creation. So we were talking about the three worlds before we went to break. So would you please tell us more, Oscar? I'd love to know more.
Certainly. In the Camasta curandero tradition of Peru, which I've had the privilege of apprenticing in since 1969 until 1982, when my mentor, Don Celso Rojas Palomino, made his transition into the Hanak Pacha, which is the upper world. Hanak means superior, above, upper. And that Hanak Pacha has a similar parallel with what we understand as the Empyrean or celestial heavenly realms. It's a realm of consciousness, just like in the notion of a Buddhist bardo, a state of awareness that the soul is able to visit consciously, while aware in a body, and also once they make their physical transition and have a physical death, a person who has worked on themselves, refined their own spiritual understanding of what it means to be human, are very often elevated to that realm of blissful existence. And it is beyond the atmosphere or sky realm or the starry lights that we see in the canopy above us. It is an abode that has crystalline, jewel-laden cities in it. It has flowing rivers and gardens of the most aromatic flowers and vines growing everywhere. It is the paradisiacal notion of Eden in a way that exists within ourselves, but most people mistakenly consider something that is a fantasy, just purely imagination. And it is. It's a realm of the imaginal archetypal realm. So if you notice in psychology, we also have the superego, the ego, and the subconscious ego, to take a psychodynamic perspective. The above, the middle, and the below. As well as this triad exists in all of the other religions and psycho-spiritual disciplines. So it's not only associated with the shamanic worldview, it is embedded in all human experience to understand that we are participants of three levels of consciousness. Superior awakened spiritual level, free of all of the hassles of this earthly existence. We are also in this middle level known as the Kai Pacha. Upper world is Hanak Pacha. Kai Pacha means this world, here and now, that we're existing in on Mother Earth now. And then we have the Uhu Pacha, the interior world, the world of our collective unconscious in the Jungian sense. But in shamanically, that means that it's the abode of the soul, because the soul loves the labyrinthine, unpredictable, dark areas, the cavernous parts of our inner life that rarely do we spend the time looking at fearlessly and examining ourselves. These are the parts of our personality and ways of being that have been denied, suppressed, and abandoned. But it's very important to bring them to light and to make them conscious. Because doing so, you no longer have the experiences of nightmarish demons and other fearful entities populating your dream time, right? So if you could see the three worlds as a world of transcendence or a transpersonal dimension beyond the personal concerns, then the middle world, the realm of the personal or interpersonal, your relationships with yourself and others, and the lower world, the intrapersonal, the place that is private, that is your own space. And within all of them, there exist these denizens, these beings that are your teachers, your guides, in the form of many, many animal allies or half animal, zoomorphic, anthropomorphic beings, angelic beings. Depending on what your preference is, you will encounter these very wise wisdom keepers in each of these realms. And the shamanic arts, through journey work, teach you to go ahead and familiarize yourself with that territory. And ideally, having an altar ground, some sort of spiritual space in which to do this work, serves as a map, serves as a guiding pattern for you to go ahead and do your rituals and your songs and your feedings of aromatic waters and incenses and smokes, and do your dances and all forms of artistic practice that have shamanic components to it, in which you awaken the presence of these unseen inhabitants of these three worlds. And little by little, they become like your relatives, your allies, and you have an expanded family of shamanic spirit helpers that you can draw upon to send out to others in service in absentee healing, to draw upon them as embodied in ceremonial items, such as the many that you see behind me, to place in the hands of people, to use them because they are laden with very highly refined vibrational frequencies born of the love that you have between yourself and those spirit helpers. So all three worlds are very richly populated with unlimited potential, depending on your imaginative discipline, depending on how you are able to sustain the intention that you want to call these beings into practice, to call these beings into service. We are in three worlds right now. When we go to sleep at night, we enter into our dreaming state. And in that dreaming, often we are transported into very different realms of consciousness. Some pleasant, some very pleasant, but mostly they are there as reminders that we are not only a conscious waking being, that we are also part of a much broader cosmic ocean, a field of relationship that is unlimited. In my own experience, when I go into my dream time, because what I practice is every day before I lay down in my bed, I close my eyes and I offer a prayer of gratitude for everything that I've experienced that day. And I thank, even if it's been a difficult day, I thank Great Spirit, in my own way, for been giving me that opportunity to be a learner, to grow. And I release myself into that care. And I go into the higher upper world. And every time I wake up in the morning before I get out of bed, I do the same. I offer a evocation for myself of appreciation and gratitude for whatever is going to come my way. So I start my day with gratitude. I end my day with gratitude. And gratitude fuels generosity, which opens to grace. The experience of gratitude for knowing that you are much more than this three-dimensional Kaipacha middle world births a sense of generosity of self. It's much easier to give of yourself freely without expecting, it's not being reciprocated in balance. So that's the principle of Aini, sacred reciprocity. And doing so, you open to grace, which is a bestowal of a deeply blissful, peaceful, ecstatic experience of connectivity with all that is. So these three worlds serve as a Jacob's ladder, much like you see right over there. as a portal of ascension. And if we're fortunate enough, we allow entrance into the crystal city, known as the Enochian temple sites of our ancients. Now, that is a lot of information on the three worlds that I hope people will take in and savor and digest at their own level. That's the best way I can put it based on the tradition that I'm a representative of.
That's very beautiful. Thank you. And so you've given them two practices, one in the morning and one at night. I don't know what everyone else does, but I always go sit outside as soon as I wake up because I can feel that life force coming into me and coming into my life. I think the universe likes it when we recognize it.
That's the other part. It's the relationship with the living, natural, pulsing, sentient, natural world, or Mama Pacha. Pachamama is the Earth Mother. Pacha means world, earth, time, place, space, state of consciousness, Bardo in the Tibetan sense of the word.
Right.
But when we're in the natural world, that is where we charge ourselves. We are allotted a degree of mana, of manitu, of kaipa, of spiritual power. Walking barefoot on the earth is indispensable. So when we are laying down on the earth by the base of a tree, relative, indispensable for recharging ourselves and entering into deeper communion with our living home, with our beloved Pachamama. So I agree. After I get up in the morning, when I ask my prayer in the morning, then I live here in South Florida right now. I also have a place in the southeastern Amazon rainforest of Peru, and then I've spent some time in Costa Rica. All of them full of living plants, edibles and medicinals. And so right outside behind me is a little Garden of Eden. And that's where I spend my time also, just like you. And it's so important as a part of our shamanic practice.
So that's one thing that everyone can do, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes. I wondered if you could tell us a little more about using our imagination with the three worlds.
For this, I invite everybody to take a deep breath, to open their palms so that they are facing the heavens, and to rest the back of their hands on their knees, their thighs, or the desk that they're in front of. But just remain in an open palm posture like this. Bring your awareness to your heart space. While simultaneously bringing your awareness to your crown, to the top of your head. And gently, slowly letting go and releasing into the sanctity and magic. This opportunity to be together, co-creating a field of evolutionary consciousness in service of humankind. And imagine that being together, here, now, all one light, is the imaginal elixir for the beneficent transformation of human consciousness into spiritual awakening. And imagine freely wherever you choose to journey. Buen veneno voy amando, voy pidiendo con mi canto, suavecito camas que florecidos los escucho, cantos de la sombra, que mi se curan de Bring your awareness to your brow, the area between your eyes and forehead. And imagine and visualize a welcoming tunnel of light that extends out from your brow beyond the physicality of your bodily perception. This is a conduit, a portal, an interdimensional bridge that allows the fullness of your soul as cosmic consciousness to move gently and in perfect harmony and safety out of your physical vehicle with your will alone, with your imaginative focus. Move it, will it, to rise up from every fiber of your being as a physical entity and enter through that tunnel and gently spiral outward harmoniously. Journeying out, visualizing an opening at the end of the tunnel in which you are drawn lovingly to exit. And as you exit, you realize you have taken on the form of the great sacred Sivarkandi, the royal hummingbird, the rainbow-colored messenger that connects the above, the middle, and the below world of our human awareness and shamanic reality. And as this nectar drinking sweet winged one who casts its rainbow flight colored a stream of healing light wherever she travels, you realize it is your soul. You realize that your ability to imagine yourself as soul provides blissful, unlimited encounter and merging with whatever world, time, place, planet, or reality where you shall be of the highest service for the beauty of your flight is the medicine for the world. Remember this. Experience it. Be it. Beauty. 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 Now gently allow yourself to imagine spiraling back in the full embodied rainbow coloration of the royal hummingbird, the messenger between worlds, the supreme cyclotron, back through this tunnel of light, moving, spiraling softly and gently in through the opening of your brow, filling your higher mind, your consciousness with radiant, colorful awareness.
Oscar, we're going to have to come back soon.
And allow yourself to take a deep breath and hold it, crystallizing that imaginary flight into every fiber of your being. And on the count of 3, in sacred reciprocity, blow forth into the screen on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Gently open your eyes, please. And to finally integrate this, left hand over right shoulder, right hand over left shoulder. And just know that your imaginal discipline faculty has now been activated and enhanced within your heart. This simple little practice will serve to not only teach you about imagination, but live it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I could definitely feel my energy getting rearranged. That was wonderful. So we're coming to the end. Would you tell our listeners where they can find your book and where they can find you on the web?
Certainly. Thank you for the opportunity. And I do apologize for going a little bit over. I didn't realize the time. You know how shamanic reality is. So, yes, the book, Shamanism, communion, personal communion with nature and creation, can be found on Amazon.com and various other booksellers. I also have Lessons in Courage, which I wrote with Bonnie Glass Coffin, the world's leading expert in Peruvian female healers, with Andrismos. I have another book, Healing Light, Who Sounds True. And I encourage you all to go ahead and visit www.heartofthehealer.org. That is our website, heartofthehealer.org. There you can find a plethora, an abundance of teachings and other opportunities to apprentice in these ways, in this lineage, that fit your own lifestyle. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for being with us. And everyone will be back in a couple weeks. Don't miss our show. And please be sure and listen to this exercise and learn it so you can make very quick progress. And thank you so much for being with us and sharing so much truth.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with to master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Join us next time as Julia takes us deeper into the memory of the moments of light where transcendence and enlightenment emerge. The memory of the jewel of consciousness has always lived within you. To tap into waves of energy and create huge changes by imagining the beauty of the vision and desires that are hidden in the heart. Learn to find your way back to nature, beauty, and your own heart, which holds the secrets of your existence and future. To discover more about Julia's adventures, animal communication, and the teachings she brings to every show, visit onetrueself.com. That's onetrueself.com. That's ONE, trueself.com.